Here are my honest thoughts on The Walking Dead Dead City Season 2, a season that I will say was pretty mixed. Now, I really liked the season while I was watching the season. There were some issues here and there, but I do want to give my overall, opinion on the season now that it's been a couple of weeks since watching the finale, now that I'm able to go back on all of the story arcs and just find out whether or not some of those story arcs paid off at all. How was Dead City Season 2 overall compared to, the previous season, but as well as the other Walking Dead spin-offs right now? So I do want to talk about that. I'll give an overall rating of the season at the very end of this video, so definitely make sure to stay to the end to check that out, and make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my Walking Dead content like this, because I will be doing a lot of Comic-Con content, because The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 3 is going to be there at Comic-Con, which is happening on July 25th, and I will be doing a live stream of that as well, and talking about the trailer and just like everything like that. So yeah, just definitely make sure to be a subscriber. Now, the whole season overall, I will say, in terms of my thoughts going into the season, I was very excited, and there were a lot of things that I was really excited about. One, I wanted this to sort of refreshen The Walking Dead overall, because after the Ones Who Lives finale, things were kind of in a dark place, I would say, for a while. It just felt like a wasteland. Like, that's the best way to describe it, because really the Ones Who Lives finale was something that, it was almost like the ending to Rick and Michonne's story, but there was still some setup there. It's not really necessarily how it ended, because it ended sort of open-ended there. It's more of the CRM arc in terms of Major General Beale and his arc, right? Like, that's where people had a lot of issues with that. And I think that after that finale, a lot of us wondered, like, where is The Walking Dead going to go next? Because that was really the direction of the last 5 or 6 years. Like, it was a really long time where there was this build to that story, and it overall didn't really matter for a lot of the other characters as well. It only really mattered for Rick and Michonne, but everything else really didn't play a role at all in that story. And so, looking at The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 2, obviously the excitement there is like Rick and Carol finding out that Rick and Michonne made it back, right? But that story, I think, there's a lot of issues with the pacing. It was only 6 episodes, and there was just a huge mess with that season. Also, the release of the season, because everyone watched it earlier. A lot of people did anyways, and I think that did hurt the hype, from week to week. And so you look at The Walking Dead Dead City, it was one of those things where I was like, all right, there's some excitement here, because the trailers have looked really good. They looked way better than the trailers for The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 2. And honestly, my excitement for what they could do with Manhattan and there being power there, I was kind of excited to see, characters like Bruegel and just like where the story was going to go. And I had a lot of hope that characters like Dwight and Sherry would show up in the finale or a post-credit scene or something to tease the future, because there's one thing that The Walking Dead really needs right now, and that is connections to a lot of other stories. And I think that things just feel so disconnected, so just like nothing matters. And I was really wanting Season 2 to give us that, feeling of like, okay, I care about the Walking Dead universe again, right? In terms of the lack of promotion, I will say that it did get a little bit better with Dead City, but there still wasn't a lot of promotion leading up to the show. Like, I think when the show was about to air, those first couple of weeks, there was a lot more there, but really not until like the last week or two. There was some stuff a month or two before, but it wasn't a lot when you compare it to how much they're promoting The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 3, because this season is being promoted a lot. Like, honestly, it's being promoted like this is the main The Walking Dead show right now. So it's, you know what I mean? I think that is something that definitely hurt Dead City, and why not a lot of people watch Dead City. Even though I think the ratings are overall fine for the show, it could have been much higher, I think, if the promotion was a lot better. So let's just get into what I think this season was about, and that was Maggie and Negan finally working together. And I think that this was really that season. It was just, they were apart the entire time. I think it was for a reason. And, they would talk here and there, but I think it was to get them to actually work together, because in Season 3, the characters are going to be together pretty much the entire time, I imagine, right? Or at least for most of the season. And so I think that this direction made a lot of sense, and I think it is the strongest part of this season for sure, especially Maggie and Herschel's story. I think for Negan, his story gets a lot better later, but it wasn't that enjoyable to watch throughout the entire season. I think that at first you're just like, well, we'll wait and see where this goes kind of thing, right? Like you have to watch every episode to sort of see where it's going to go because it might lead to this or that. And I think by the end, it's like, okay, this is really cool. But you also do have a lot of questions on like, well, where are they going with the character in season 3? Is he still going to be like that, or has he changed now and he's going to be different? Because how depressed and boring he was, I would say this season was something that I think, for a lot of people just wasn't a lot of fun. And for me personally, it wasn't really like, there were some scenes that were okay. And like there was a scene in episode 3 where he's making jokes and stuff. And it's, it's the fun side to the character and you like that. But I do think overall, at least for his story, it wasn't the best. Like, I think we've had better stories for the character in the past. And yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of it overall. But by the end, there's actually some payoff to that, right? Because Negan actually kills Bruegel and you get that really awesome scene there. Though I will say, in terms of the Lucille scene overall, like, I wanted him to use Lucille a lot more than that. I think that, like, that's sort of my concern about going into season 3 is that he's not going to have Lucille. Like, I want him to have Lucille. So this season, it was teased that Lucille was going to be there. And yeah, Lucille was there. But, like, he didn't really use Lucille that much, like, at all. So to me, I would say that that was something that I wasn't a fan of as well. Episode 3, I think, is a really, really great episode. It's a very strong episode between Herschel and really a lot of other characters. I think Herschel is the star of the episode. Episode 6 as well, the bear episode was great, but also with what it did to a lot of the other stories too. I think that it was a really great episode before the finale, right? Episode 7 obviously was the setup there, but I think episode 6 was the stronger of the two. And then episode 8, obviously a really great finale. Like, I really did enjoy that finale, and I'm going to get into a lot of my weakest plot lines right away, but I think in terms of the finale and what it did for Maggie and Negan, I think it was honestly perfect. I think they did a really great job of building those characters back up. I think there's some stuff with Maggie and her wanting to kill him that, like, her being convinced of that and just how a lot of that happened, that it's like, I feel like they wrote Dama's death to happen in the way that it did, and then it just became very weird to have Maggie like go all the way up there just to, have to decide that she wants to kill him to go back down. And then it was just like the whole entire thing, I just feel like didn't really have to happen. But that's not my criticism with Maggie's story. That's more my criticism with Dama's fake death, and I'll talk about that in a second here. I just think the finale with where they left all the characters, and not just Maggie and Negan, but like Herschel and Dama, I think they left them all in really exciting places for the future. New Babylon, I will say it could be exciting, but I am sort of concerned about that. So let's actually talk about that. My weakest plot lines of the season here, I mean, I could just get into some of the New Babylon stuff, but actually first, let's just go in the order of my notes here. So I do want to talk about Dama's fake death, because in the moment it felt really cool, because it was just very shocking that the character just like died out of nowhere. Like, wait, what? Now everything has like this reset almost, like the characters can just leave if they want to. And it just, to me, because she ended up being alive, and because the characters were still in the same place afterwards anyways, it didn't really make a lot of sense to do that. Like, it was just something that didn't really need to happen, because what did it do for Dama's story overall? Like, it didn't really add too much to the story if you think about it. And like, the only thing that really happened is that like Dama, I guess, lost the Croat's allegiance to her, right? Like, the Croat was so devoted to her that I think his betrayal in that moment, yes, I do really like that. That works. That's really awesome. But where did that go by the end? It didn't really go anywhere. There's no reaction there. So like, maybe if there's a payoff in season 3, then this won't really be a complaint of mine overall. But with where things are right now, at least for the season, and I can only really go based off of season 2. I don't know where they're going for season 3, but it just kind of feels like a moment that I probably wouldn't have done. I think you could have not done a fake death scene, or just made it where it was like the Croat went back up there and is like, oh wait, where's Dama? And Dama's missing now, and now he's concerned about like where she could be, and like now what does he do, right? I think that's way more realistic, and it just makes it way more like, oh no, Dama's out there somewhere, and this way it doesn't have to feel so like, oh, she's back, and like, you know what I mean? I think just doing something like that makes a lot more sense. So that is something that I would have changed, but again, for the Croat story, I think it works. But In this season specifically, we didn't see that. Another storyline that I thought was kind of weak in this season was all of the New Babylon stories. So this is something that I've really thought about quite a bit. I was trying to think of a storyline that really mattered here overall, like any character, just anything from New Babylon. There's really, not a lot of characters I feel like from New Babylon that are worthy of talking about. Like the only character I guess would be Lucia, I believe, but she died in this season anyway, so she wasn't really a villain of New Babylon. Like she was for the season, but like I don't know, she wasn't really there. There's Charlie Bird, and she died right away. She had like no scenes really. The only other character would have been the historian Benjamin, and maybe he does add a little bit more to season 3, but he's not a terrifying villain. So that's kind of my thing about New Babylon is like, yes, we saw what they did very early on in the very first episode, I believe, and that was honestly terrifying. And like the stuff that they normally do is a little bit more like, oh, I really do not want to deal with this community. But it also feels like I would much rather the story be set around like not in New York City and more set at the bricks and like areas around New Babylon, because what they're doing and how they're sort of handling all of that seems to be a little bit more exciting as to what's going on in New York City, right? Like I want to see more about the bricks. I want to see more about New Babylon, and I want to deal with more of the problems there than in Manhattan, where it's like everyone's going there. And yes, the story being set in New York City is supposed to be really exciting, and it can be, but it's just, I don't know, they didn't really do anything new with it, I would say, in season 2, besides the power being on, which we never really saw a lot of. And I feel like it wasn't a big part of the story overall for season 2, right? Like at this point, who cares if they want the methane? Like just let them take it. Honestly, I don't even know why Maggie and Negan are still in New York City. Like just leave. Obviously Herschel's there, so I know that that's really the reason there, so that makes sense. And that's really my 2 biggest criticisms of this season here. It's a lot of how they handled the villains overall, and like Dama's fake death, because I feel like there was a better way to handle that. That was a lot of the villain stuff, and then you get to New Babylon, they're villains as well, and it's just, there's nothing there with the group, right? So that's what I mean. I feel like all of that was mishandled and just so messy and like didn't really make a lot of sense, and like decisions were made on certain things that I don't know if I agree with, or even if I do agree with it and it makes sense, it just wasn't done well. I think for season 3, you do need to make New Babylon a way more terrifying villain. New Babylon has to have a proper villain. Like they need a character that you can look at and be like, that character is terrifying, and like if they find out this or that, or if they go here and do this, like you need a terrifying villain, I think, and they don't have that right now. It's just they're there for the methane, and it's like, okay, you can take the methane, I guess. Like, why does it really matter? Do you have any sort of like, what are you going to do with the methane besides power on the city, which I think could be a good thing? If anything, it's going to be more of, the rules of New Babylon and whether or not that is something that, is just not right. And I think that could be a really interesting story, but they're not focused on that at all. It's all about the methane. So I really hope that for season 3 that changes, because I feel like a lot of the story arcs overall didn't really necessarily matter besides getting certain characters killed and whatever. Herschel obviously is with Dama now, so that's going to be a really interesting storyline. That was something I really did like. I think that Herschel being on Dama's side now and that whole storyline, I think is going to be really great for the future, because I do want Herschel to be a villain for the next couple of seasons or whatever anyways, because I just think that it makes a lot of sense, especially because in the comics, he's kind of like that anyways. Eventually, he's not going to be a villain, but I think for now, it could be a lot of fun to do that. And I think for Maggie and Negan, yeah, I think they went through a lot here. I think that this was a really great season overall for the 2 characters. Besides Negan, but I talked about that already. But overall, like just the ending point, I'm a fan of it. And I do like where they're going for season 3 overall. So some of the standout characters that I will say, the characters that I really did like a lot, I think Herschel and Bruegel were probably my favorite characters. Also, I will say Maggie is up there a little bit because she had a big storyline here, and I think that Lauren Cohen did amazing. She directed an episode this season, so there's a lot there. So I would say those are like the 3 standout characters for sure. I think Herschel is up there because he's like a main character now in The Walking Dead, and then Bruegel because Kim Coates is amazing, and Lauren Cohen as Maggie up there a little bit just because of her story overall, and also she did direct this season. So overall, my rating of Dead City Season 2, I would say, is likely... I'm stuck between two numbers here because I think one side to it is a little harsh, and I really did like the tone of the show overall. And the other one I feel like might be a little bit too high, but I'm stuck between a 7.5 and an 8, and it's really hard to give it an 8 because, like, did I enjoy every single episode? No, I mean, I did enjoy it, but, like, did I enjoy every single storyline? No, definitely not, but there were some really clever things there. Honestly, I think I would have to go with, like, a 7.5. I'm just gonna go with that for now. So that's my official rating, a 7.5 out of 10. I wish I could give it an 8 out of 10. Honestly, I probably could still, but yeah, I would have to say I think that 7.5 makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to go with that rating, 7.5 out of 10, and I should go back and rate all of my previous seasons of just other things. I haven't really done like an official rating ever, and I kind of want to start doing that, just because it's kind of fun. You could sort of like relate it to previous seasons, this and that. But I'm going to go 7.5. I think that there were a lot of issues with this season and the overall direction of the villain storylines. There was a lot of villains there. It felt messy, and it felt like they didn't really know what to do with all of those characters. And I think that maybe that's why Eli Journet is not going to be the showrunner for season 3. I mean, maybe he left just to go do a different show, but they're obviously changing the showrunners, it seems like, for season 3. And so it is possible that they weren't a fan of where things went in season 2, and they're just like, you know what, we need a change here. And so we'll see where things go for season 3. Because I will say, in season 2 of The Walking Dead Dead City, it was a return to form with the Walking Dead stories and how they tell them. Like, it was 8 episodes. That slower pace, you need that. It's a lot of the other stuff with the stories that I think, just kind of got messed up there. But I think the 8 episodes you do need. If anything, you need more episodes. But that worked really well, and I think that built up, a lot of the excitement of like living with that story for as long as we did. I just think that, again, there was some issues here and there, but I think that, the fact that we have a really good character like Herschel, Maggie and Negan are in a really good place right now. We had a really amazing villain, and yes, he was a 1-season villain, but I mean, hey, there's still 1-season characters out there that were really amazing, right? And Bruegel is up there. He's definitely up there. He was a really great villain for the season here. We'll have to wait and see what happens next for Dama and everything else, but overall, a 7.5. I did enjoy the season quite a bit, and I had some issues, but it was still a good season overall. So anyways, post all your thoughts down below. What would your rating be for the season? Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.